outside, just, some towel bars, pictures, stuff like that. Well done. Started on the
Good evening, members of council, staff, ladies and gentlemen. I see that we have quorum, and I call this regular meeting for the town of Pelham Council for Monday, August 13th, 2012 to order. We'll begin with an invocation that I will lead, followed by the singing of the national anthem that Councillor Papp will lead. All rise. Dear Lord, as summer continues and many are thinking about the future and the fall, please send your Spirit upon our town council this evening. Help this council, Lord, to renew our commitment to serving the people of the town of Pelham. Help us to plant seeds that will one day grow, to water seeds already planted, to lay foundations that will need future development, and to provide the yeast that produces effects beyond our capabilities. During our council meeting this evening, Lord, grant that we may demonstrate humility, listen with an open mind, and show wisdom in all our deliberations. Amen.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patron all, in all thy Son's command, with glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you all. Before we, next item is adoption of the agenda. Before we adopt the agenda, I would like to formally welcome, on behalf of all members of council, our new fire chief, Bob Limburner. Thank you very much for joining us. This is your first day and your first council meeting. We welcome you to this role as chief. You're no stranger to the town, of course, serving in the fire service for a number of years and acting as the acting chief, acting deputy in Niagara Falls. I'm getting that wrong. I apologize. What's the correct wording of that? Acting captain. Thank you. Acting captain. Thank you, Councillor, in Niagara Falls. And we're very pleased that you're joining us today on your first day. So thank you very much, Chief. Thank you. I do have a motion for the adoption of the agenda. It's been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Durley, that the agenda for the August 13th, 2012 regular meeting of council be adopted. Are there any additions to that agenda? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next item is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Do councillors have any pecuniary interest they need to disclose at this time? Can that be noted in the minutes, please? We have a number of delegations, 3 of them, in fact, and the first will begin with Mr. Brent McSpadden regarding open-air burning. Please join us here at the podium. I want to thank you very much, Mr. McSpadden, for coming this evening. Council will remember that Mr. McSpadden was scheduled to speak to committee last meeting, but due to some communication errors, I think our council meeting went on a little too long, and he never imagined that committee would be after that. So we do appreciate you coming today and rescheduling your time, and look forward to your presentation. Go ahead, please,
First
sir.
of all, I'd like to say thank you for allowing me to present this evening, council and the mayor. I wanted to speak tonight about open-air burns. So on the recommendation of the staff of the town of Pelham, councillor, and the acting fire chief at the time, I was asked to bring it before council to talk about open-air burns, residential open-air burns in the town of Pelham. It's in my goal to have the setbacks for open-air burns increased to greater distances from property lines that currently exist in the bylaw. You're probably all aware that section 6 of the bylaw states that must be 4 meters from a property, all adjacent property lines in all directions, and 3 meters from combustible structures. During the past year, a resident of Fawn Hills had to deal with smoke from a rear neighbor and their open air burning. We feel the current bylaw does absolutely nothing to protect neighbors that have shallow backyards within this community. From what I understand, there's work being done to strengthen the current bylaw to give it more bite when acting on a complaint. So I was thinking this would be a good opportunity to correct a flaw that I feel exists in the current section 6 of the bylaw. To have a setback of only 4 meters from property lines falls far short of what would be suitable and suitable distance in all instances, because not all properties share the same depths. We strongly believe there has not been enough study to say that 4 meters is a good distance from every property line in the town of Pelham. Prevailing winds, not just the current wind speed, should be part of any decision as to where a fire pit can be located on properties. A wind of as little as 5 kilometers will push smoke from a fire pit into a neighboring residential property. At a distance of 4 meters, ash from an open air fire will definitely cross that distance. Okay, so to issue a permit with these less than adequate setbacks only causes confusion with neighbors. It gives the fire burner a sense of entitlement as they've complied with the bylaw. Problem is, the bylaw does not work for the person that does not want the emissions to affect the enjoyment of his property. When this happens, a complaint is lodged and the offender's permit is possibly revoked. One neighbor is now happy and the other's not so happy as they believe they have complied, which they did, to the current bylaw. Problem is, the bylaw has failed and does not examine all the variables that can make each and every burn location unique. It also discusses a little further with Philip Hall, and there's, under the Environmental Protection Act, there's a couple, Section 14, prohibition discharging contaminant. It states there that an adverse shall not happen if it adversely affects the health of any person and a loss of enjoyment of property, which is very similar to the bylaw exists in the town of Pelham, and I'm sure you're all aware of that. In conclusion, I just want to share an example of where the bylaw does not protect the homeowner from an open-air burn. Okay. This Fawn Hill resident, the rear outside walls of a Fawn Hill home sits only 9 meters from property line, with an in-ground pool between the property line and the fence line. At times while enjoying the pool, the residents are within 1 meter of the property line, or only 5 meters from an active smoke emitting open-air burn. So what I'm interested in seeing is having the setbacks re-examined and increased to no less than 10 meters from any property line. At 10 meters, there would be no smoke drift to adjacent properties if all other aspects of the bylaw are followed. So, have any questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Spadden. Now, let's see if members of council have any questions for you. Appreciate your presentation. Do members have any questions for the presenter at this time? Councillor Pat?
Thank you, Mr. McSpadden. Since the time of that you've met with our officials, has there been a continuation of the open-air burning by your neighbor?
Well, yes, there has. They have had open-air burns, but it hadn't affected us at the time. And also there was a fire ban, so I think there was probably only one occasion. One occasion, it was kind of iffy. And
Right.
part of the problem in the town of Pelham is actually filing a complaint. It's kind of unclear how you do that. So you don't want to have the entire fire brigade there, so it was kind of overlooked. I knew I would end up coming here, so.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. That's fine.
Thank you. Other members with questions? I think you've made your presentation very clear. Thank you very much for your presentation. I do have a motion here, moved by Councillor Papp, second by Councillor Durley, that the information received from the delegation Brent McSpadden regarding open-air burning be received. Any other direction that council would like to give? There being none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. That motion is carried. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you. Our next presenter is Mr. Michael Sharon regarding the 40th anniversary reunion of Westbrook. And you have a guest with you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, I'm very, very happy to be here this evening. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to say a few words to you. We'll try to be brief, but we also want to give you some information. A couple of things we want to do is take this opportunity to let the residents of this community know that there is going to be a 40th and last reunion of Westbrook Secondary School. That's the important part of it. Westbrook Secondary School does not really exist anymore. It ceased to exist in 1996, was opened in 1972, but because it is no longer in existence, obviously it's harder and harder to have reunions when there's not a continuous flow of people going through. So we're going to talk about this evening so that the people from this community, because it was one of the 4 communities that fed Westbrook Secondary School, people of this community who went there will have an opportunity to know when the reunion is going to be, and it will give them the opportunity to go to this 40th and last one that's available. With me is Jackie Langerek. That was her name when she was there at school when I was there, when we were both much younger. And she will talk a little bit about her experience at the school and what it's meant to her, so you understand that. I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of the school first. There was a gentleman in this community by the name of Bob Peart, who was at Pelham High School with Bud Kerr. You all will know the name Bud Kerr. Bud and Bob worked together at Pelham, and Bob Peart was given the opportunity to set up Westbrook Secondary School. He was given a year off by the board, and he took that year to put together a great high school. One that was not like a regular high school. When you went to Westbrook Secondary School, you came and you took a half a day of academics and a half a day of technical work, where you learned a trade with an exact purpose to get you ready to go to work. And that's what the whole school was about. So we had 500 plus young people. As a matter of fact, over the years in which we were there, 5,000 young people came through the school. Actually did my master's thesis on Westbrook Secondary School. We had a 75% plus graduation rate within that school, meaning people stayed for 4 years, got a secondary school diploma, and went to work with a skill. It was a fantastic place to be. And Jackie will explain what it meant to her and emphasize that to you in a few minutes. There were many different things that we did in that school other than spend time with shops. There were championship floats. Gord Rindle put floats in parades that won awards all the time. We had young people go and receive welding certificates because Adrian Verberg not only got them ready for a trade, but actually got them a ticket in that trade. We had people who learned how to cook. We had people who learned how to do carpentry work. We had people who learned to make bread. We had people to learn to do 20 different things in that school. It was a great place to be. Young people really enjoyed being there because we taught people, and then we taught them through a subject. But the people were the main thing that we did. Every year we took 80 to 100 young people up to a camp for 10 days. Some of them had never been out of their city. So if they were in Port Colborne, they went as far as Welland, and they went back home again. We took them up north. And we took them up north for over a week, and we gave them an experience that they never really forgot from that point on. We are really proud of what we were able to do at Westbrook Secondary School over that period of time. As a matter of fact, when the equal funding came for the separate school board, Westbrook Secondary School, the building was given over to the separate school system. And as a group of people, the staff, were so unique that they all went and they made makeshift boats, and they got in the Welland River and they paddled down the Welland River to Welland High, which became Westbrook Secondary School for a short period of time before the board decided that that kind of education would be done in a different way. I won't make any comments about whether I believe in that or not. As a secondary school principal later on, I think it was a major mistake. In general for young people to be able to do that. And we now look at the need for skilled tradespeople right now, and we know that it could be done in a different way. We are having a reunion. I'll give you some information about that reunion in a little while, but I think it's important that you find out from Jackie exactly how important that school was to the young people who were there. Go ahead, Jackie.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and citizens of Pelham. My name is Jackie Langer-Clark, and I am a graduate of 1989 from Westbrook Secondary School. I am here this evening to tell you about why I am celebrating Westbrook's 40th reunion. This school has made me the success I am today. The encouragement and resources that were given to me allowed me to graduate Westbrook with a hairstyling license, along with an Ontario secondary school diploma. It allowed me to graduate Sheridan College with a diploma in aesthetics and Niagara College with a diploma in teaching adult education. Westbrook teachers were always encouraging, striving for something better in life, being successful and determined. In my high school years, I was representative in all my grades, and in grade 12, I became vice president of student council, valedictorian of my grade 12 class, and I received the Excellence in Education's Award through the school board. This was an accomplishment through hard work and support from all my facilitators and family. Today, I stand alongside one of my former teachers, Mr. Michael Sharon, who I consider a wonderful mentor. Along with many other former students, I'm here to celebrate the success of Westbrook and the students who have made all goals possible because of this great school and the opportunities it gave us. In our committee, we have students from graduating classes from 1972 to 1989, and everyone is here to celebrate Welland's best school, which is Westbrook Secondary School. To all former students, I would like to invite everyone to join us on September 22nd at Club Richelieu to share their stories and experiences of their past and present with all former teachers and students. Thank you.
You see what kind of young people we were able to graduate at that was my last school, at Westbrook Secondary School. The 17 years of Westbrook are still part of me, though it was an extremely important place for me to be. We took a 2-year program at Port Colborne High School in Welland. We made it into a 4-year program with graduated people, and they end up being like Jackie right here. We want everyone to know that September 22nd is the date of the reunion. It's at Club Richelieu in Welland at 2 o'clock. And the closest place for people to be able to get tickets from here in this community is probably the Swiss Chalet in Welland. And there's a pamphlet that I've left with your clerk that will give those numbers, and they can call and pick up tickets. They're $10 for the day for people to come. And honestly, just come. The $10 is the least important part of the whole thing. 40 years of a wonderful place, 40 years of education for young people, 40 years of young people being successful in life because of Westbrook Secondary School. And most importantly, it's the last time it's going to happen. So thank you very much for the time this evening. We really appreciate it. And we hope that this forum will help spread the word throughout the entire community so that those who graduated from Westbrook will have the opportunity to go and join us at that very important day on the 22nd at 2 o'clock at Club Richelieu in Welland.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I wonder if members of council have any questions for you. It's a very thorough presentation. No? None? Thank you for bringing it to our attention. I do have a motion moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Durley, that the information received from the Westbrook Secondary School 40th anniversary designate Michael Sharon and Jackie Langard-Clunk be received. Comments or questions on that? I call the question. All those in favor? Thank you very much for the presentation. We wish you the very best with the reunion.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you.
Council,
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
Take care. We have another delegation. Shirley Bedard is here. Ms. Bedard, thank you very much for joining us.
Mayor Augustine and councillors. As you know, my name is Shirley Bedard, and I'd like to bring forth 2 issues that I believe require your immediate attention. Firstly, the most important has to deal with public safety for all the citizens of the town of Pelham. In my opinion, there is a gross invasion of our right to the use of the sidewalk and a parking spot in front of a restaurant on Pelham Street. I am aware that there has been previous complaints filed against this restaurant's sign impeding pedestrian traffic on the sidewalk and including a safe exit from a parking spot on Pelham Street. Each time a complaint was brought forward to the bylaw office, bylaw officer made the proprietor remove the sign from town property, and I'm aware that this proprietor had been informed that the sign could be placed on their property, which was only 1 foot from their building to town property. I recently had a discussion with a staff member on the phone, and this member proceeded to tell me that the Beautification Committee of Pelham, the Business Association, and the Council approved this restaurant having a patio, and more importantly, a liquor license patio. I explained my concerns of public safety. The patio has virtually taken away the sidewalk by roping it off and occluding a parking spot with barrels. I explained to the staff member that persons who are disabled and require the use of assistive devices are now being forced to walk around the so-called patio, as are other able-bodied citizens. Anyone knows that when assistive devices are used to traverse this patio, handicapped persons are forced to descend down the brickwork onto the road to walk the distance of the patio, and then must descend back up to the sidewalk. We, the disabled, have to keep our devices in a straight line, and we must be on flat surfaces, otherwise we and our devices become unstable and end up falling. I had then talked to another staff member on this same issue. The way I had perceived the discussion was that the member was also in favor of this patio because the city of Halifax had a similar venue. The staff member also informed me that this patio was an experiment which may last up until October 5th, 2012. This member also informed me that there is supposed to be a 6-foot leeway from the barrels to the roadway, as to which pedestrians are supposed to walk. This member had said that they would check the distance by measuring with their foot paces. I had explained once again that persons with assistive devices must descend straight, then we must go onto the road so that our equipment, assistive devices, must be on a flat surface and not on an angle. If our devices are on an angle, it will cause an instability and increases our danger, because we may fall into oncoming traffic. This staff member was kind enough to tell me that the patio was going to be a licensed patio, and that the patio license was extending up until October 5th of this year. I also raised my previous safety concerns with this staff member, and I suggested that this restaurant could move their patio to the rear of their business where it would not affect anyone. The staff member said that the proprietor of this restaurant had staffing problems and that they would have a difficult time serving patrons in their building and downstairs to the patio. Frankly, that's not my concern. As a taxpayer, I am against the sale of alcohol on town property, the occlusion of the public sidewalk, and the occlusion of a well-needed parking spot. So if the restaurant's patio should still remain this summer to October, I feel that the owner of this business should, at their own expense, and not from the taxpayers' money, purchase some type of barrier like the Ohio cement vehicle barriers used on the 406 extension that are able to deflect traffic and secure our public safety. The thing that scares me the most is that children have to go around this patio. Where's the public safety for them? I witnessed 3 children and younger, 3 children 8 years and younger. They were totally oblivious to the traffic. In fact, the youngest child was on the roadway and not paying any attention to the traffic at all. This child could have been hit by a passing vehicle and may have been seriously injured or killed. This last part was a scenario which could have played out very easily. My God, I hope it doesn't happen, but it is a possibility for any pedestrian being forced to traverse the restaurant patio. Please remember, school starts in a few weeks. Do we want our children to be forced off the sidewalk and into traffic to accommodate a liquor license patio? I would respectfully request that the sidewalk patio be removed or moved to the back parking lot so it does not impede any public safety. I would also like to know, being a taxpayer, why the sidewalk bylaw was overlooked and a patio allowed to occupy a sidewalk space as well as a much-needed parking spot. I do not remember reading in any paper where I had a choice to vote for or against this licensed patio. It's quite obvious I'm definitely against this liquor licensed patio. Secondly, I have noticed that the only disabled parking spot on Pelham Street does not have a visible disabled diagram painted in that parking spot. Most drivers look for the painted diagram. The posted sign at that spot is not identifiable because the posted sign is facing west when Pelham Street runs north and south. Most people do not see the sign, and mostly able-bodied persons park in that location. Also, for your information, there are too many posts within the disabled parking spot, which may hinder persons who are wheelchair-bound and are drivers or passengers. And they must exit their vehicle by either the side door or from the rear of the vehicle, depending on the location of their elevating and dismounting systems. Also, during the winter months, snow is plowed into the disabled parking spot, making it impossible to park in. During a phone conversation with a staff member earlier this year, January, I had asked why there was only one disabled parking spot on Pelham Street rather than 2 spots since the downtown core was revamped. The staff member stated that there was never a second spot. I believe this member is mistaken in this regard. The second spot was located between the cleaners and the pizza place on Pelham Street. I used to park in that spot many, many times. This staff member explained that there are 2 more disabled parking places down by the town office. This staff person proceeded to tell me that disabled people could park down by the town office and walk up the grade to Pelham Street and then they could go anywhere they please. I explained to this staff member that persons with a disabled permit mean that they have difficulty walking, hence the use of assistive devices. This staff member did not want to change the disabled spot on Pelham Street, nor did they want to add another parking spot on Pelham Street. I also asked why the only disabled spot on Pelham Street was not painted, which is with a more recognizable usual disabled sign there, so that all drivers could recognize that spot. The staff member's response was that they did not want to paint the new bricks because it would take away the beautification of the downtown core. Very poor excuse if you ask me. Please help Pelham's disabled citizens. Please replace the second disabled parking spot, and please consider adding a third. The disabled citizens would thank you for adding those parking spots on Pelham Street so that they could more easily access the local businesses. I would like to thank you, Mayor Augustine, and councilors for your time and listening to my issues. I hope these issues will be rectified immediately. Public safety should never be sacrificed because of a patio. Please return the public sidewalk and a parking spot to the citizens of Pelham, and please place a painted visual aid onto the disabled parking spots. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bedard, for your presentation. Very comprehensive and well presented. I wonder if members of council have any questions for you at this time. I do have one question. You stated that a second accessible parking spot was located between the cleaners and the pizza place.
Yes.
Is that on the west side of Pelham Street or the east side?
East side.
So on the east side, you're talking down near the sort of the Volcanoes
Yeah.
pizza area?
Yes.
There was one there?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that, that information. Thank you. Do other members of council have any questions? No? Thank you very much. I do have a motion to receive the presentation, and we'll see if councilors want to do anything else here. Moved by Councillor Papp, second by Councillor Durley, that the information received from the delegation, Shirley Bedard, regarding the Cafe on Main outdoor patio and public safety and disabled parking be received. Questions, comments? Councillor Durley, and then Councillor Ribbiak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the comments need to be put in, since this is a trial balloon, a weather balloon, just to see what was going on, that all of these comments need to be placed into the mix for consideration, and we're making sure that we have everything together if and when we do make a policy that will allow such things. And certainly the encroachment on the public sidewalk is an important issue, and I think definitely we need to visit that. So further to receiving it, I think it should be referred to staff so that it can be included in the review of all of the information that we're gathering to attempt to come up with a reasonable and feasible solution to the businesses wishing to have outside patios. So,
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Ribbiak? Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ribbiak, I had you next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think my colleague has articulated pretty much my interest as well. Perhaps one additional aspect to that, I wonder whether some of the factual items in the presentation might be looked at by staff and just commented on. I want to know, for example, whether there indeed was an additional disabled parking spot where indicated. I should also like to have perhaps staff comment on what consideration was given to the disabled in terms of the design of the patio and its location.
Okay,
Sooner, I think, than October 5th.
okay, thank you. So we have that noted. Thank you. Councillor Clark?
Further along Councillor Ribbiak's comments, if we've lost a handicap parking spot, and maybe this is a question for Mr. Mantle through you, Mr. Mayor, that perhaps we could, for the balance of the time that patio was there, could we, I'm not sure what the formalities are, but if we had to, we should have to, that we should find a second one?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mantle, can you comment on the additional parking, accessible parking?
We can research that to see if there was another space out there and find a spot for one.
If we could do that in a timely manner?
Okay. I recall the discussion at the time for the downtown and the beautification, and the discussion was that it was thought that each of the spots was accessible. We've now heard differently that it is difficult to walk on that slope. But I have heard from other members, from some of the feedback, that it's fine if each of them are accessible, but they have to be available as well, and it's important to designate them as such. So we'll see if there was that, and perhaps council can consider in the near future whether there's an additional one or two or whatever it is required on one side of the street or the other side of the street or both. But I think it's important to have that information from Mr. Mantle, so I look forward to receiving that. Councillor Clark?
Again, time constraint on that, can we have that report back for our next meeting from Mr. Mantle?
Mr. CAO?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We will have it ready.
All right, we will.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from members of, from council regarding this issue? Thank you very much. So we have a motion to receive it. Actually, I have to vote on the amendment. The clerk's going to remind me on that. And the amendment is referred to staff to be part of the feedback for the sidewalk patio policy and also to clarify some of the issues raised in the discussions this evening. So I'm going to call that amendment.
Mr. Mayor, and to be brought back by your next meeting, I think should be in there, the direction as to time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to call the question on that amendment. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. That amendment is carried. And now to the main motion as amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. That motion is carried unanimously. So we'll hear back at our next meeting with a report from staff, and we can consider options at that time. So thank you very much to council and staff, and we look forward to that. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you. Our next item of business is adoption of minutes. It has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by perhaps Councillor Ribbiak will second this, that the minutes of the following council meeting be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. Regular council July 16th, 2012, and special council July 16th, 2012. Will you second that, Councillor?
I do.
Discussion regarding any of the minutes? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. The next item is consent agenda items for block approval. There are a few items here, and I wonder if any members of council would like to lift any of the items for separate consideration. There being none, it's been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak, that the following consent agenda items be received and approved. 10.1, the minutes of General Committee meeting July 16th, 2012, and recommendation sheet. Consent agenda 1 to 4, corporate services 1 and 2, and CIS 1 to 3. And also 10.2, information correspondence items received to August 8th, 2012. Michael Perenzi, E.L. Crosley Scholarship Thank You Letter. Emma Giesbrecht, E.L. Crosley Scholarship Thank You Letter. Number 3, the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Greater Fort Erie, a letter regarding their merger. And item D, a note from Monty McNaughton, who's MPP, regarding a special item of business at the legislature. Any comments or questions on any of the items? Councillor Pap?
Very quickly, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to express the deep heartfelt thanks that our ability to help the two students at E.L. Crossley with scholarships. I wish we could hand out 200 of them to get people on to post-secondary education. And particularly when you read these letters and you see in some cases they are burdened with some sort of financial challenges, and for us to acknowledge their academic achievements, and hopefully as they go through school they will come back here and work in whatever capacity. So I think it says a lot about the town that investing in education is vitally important, and obviously these students, it's affected them, and 10 years from now we'll see what happens and how they make out. So I wanted to just acknowledge that was very nice for them to respond to that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pap. I was certainly impressed as well with the letters of thanks and them outlining their future and what it means to them and how important it was to them. So thank you very much for that. And Councillor, another item?
Yes, just secondly, I wanted to express our gratitude to the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of South Niagara and Greater Fort Erie. In the nonprofit sector, the whole challenge of trying to carry out work under multiple jurisdictions with multiple different sectors, this is a big step in the right direction, and they extend congratulations to both boards for taking this step. As you know, my former employer, the United Way, is doing the same thing and looking at the same type of a merger, and this is the only way in which we are going to be able to be effective and meeting the needs of those that are most in need. So Big Brothers and Big Sisters do have an impact locally. I do know without stating very specifically, but they do help a number of families locally here in Pelham, and it's indeed encouragement to see this happen. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Other members of council on any of the items under consent agenda? Thank you for raising those, Councillor. There being none others, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. That motion is carried. Thank you. The next item is action correspondence for action. Has been moved by Councillor Pap, seconded by Councillor Durley, to action communication item 1, being a letter from the Royal Canadian Legion, branch 613, requesting a temporary extension to their licensed patio area and for use of a fenced-off area southeast of the existing patio for their annual golf and steak dinner on Sunday, September 16th, 2012, be received and approved, and the clerk be directed to provide a letter of approval to the Legion for inclusion with their Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario licensing extension application. Discussion? Any? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. That motion is carried. Moved by Councillor Durley, second by Councillor Ribbiak, that action communication item 2, being a letter from Pelham Cares, requesting the use of the former fire station number 2 in Fenwick for the period between November 28th and December 31st, 2012, be approved, subject to proof of adequate insurance. Discussion? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. That motion is carried. The next item of business is presentation consideration of reports from members of council. I have one report, and it is regarding Summerfest. And really it is a thank you to all those involved to Summerfest. And I wanted to, on behalf of all members of council and the community, thank the 2012 Summerfest Committee for their vision, for their hard work and their dedication in making this 4-day event a reality and an overwhelming success. More than 15,000 people enjoyed Pelham Summerfest on Saturday in downtown Fonthill. That's up 50% from last year. More than 3,000 defied the drizzle on Thursday to hear Elvis and the band shell and participate in the farmers market and art in the park. Another 2,000 came out on Friday night, which was part of the Niagara region's first Niagara Nights of Art, and it was a program here in Peace Park. And hundreds participated in the family walk, the last day of the Art in the Park and the Communities in Bloom tour that also occurred on the Sunday. I wanted to, on behalf of council, thank the members of that committee. They include Councillor Gary Accursey, who's not here this evening, unfortunately, but I know that his thanks will be passed along to him. Todd Barber, who's representing the Downtown Beautification Committee, B. Clark, representing the Pelham Active Transportation Committee, Kathleen Goodman, Pelham Welland Chamber of Commerce, John Wink, the Pelham Business Association, and Vicky Van Ravensway, our Town of Pelham staff, and all the staff that really helped to put this fabulous event together. The committee worked together with so many dedicated volunteers, including those from the Kinsman Club, the Rotary Club, the Lions Clubs, both Lions Clubs, the Pelham Active Transportation Committee, the local artists who shared their voices and visions and vibrancy as part of the Nights of Art. Patricia Hafter, who put together the Art in the Park element, the Pelham Art Festival, the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, the Fonthill Bandshell Summer Concert Committee, and the Pelham Farmers Market Committee. A huge number of people involved to make this event an overwhelming success. Thank you as well to the community-minded contractors and suppliers who built the pavilion at the top of Pelham Town Square. It's where it still sits. Since council has agreed to keep the pavilion there until October, I hope that many residents provide feedback via our online survey at the town's website at www.pelham.ca. And thanks to the many friends of the Pelham Summerfest and many generous corporate sponsors, including the top sponsors, Forest Green Creations, Lafarge Canada, Fonthill Dental, McAvoy, Balin and Campbell, Enbridge, Travelers, Fonthill Sobeys, and Schultz Brothers Construction. On behalf of council, I appreciate the vision, the dedication, the tremendous work of so many to put this event together to make it so successful and to help celebrate our creative, vibrant, and caring community. Congratulations on the overwhelming success. Our next item of business, there are no other reports from members of council, are staff reports requiring action. The first is the site alteration bylaw report. It has been moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak, that report P3512, the site alteration bylaw, be received and the recommendation contained therein be approved as follows. The council receive report P3812 regarding the site alteration bylaw for information purposes. The staff be directed to publish a draft site alteration bylaw in the local newspaper and on the town's website for the purpose of receiving comments on the same. And further, that council directs staff to present a recommendation report to General Committee, Planning and Development Division in November of 2012. Any discussion regarding this matter? Councilor Ribbiak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that it's really important for us to move this item forward. It's a matter of great interest to a whole lot of people for a whole lot of reasons. But I wonder whether we might take a look at modifying, and I will so move, modifying the recommendation such that it is not necessary for us to publish the entire site alteration bylaw in the local newspapers. I think making the bylaw available within the town hall and making it available on the web would be sufficient, particularly if what we put in the newspapers is an advertisement to citizens that that's where the site alteration bylaw can be reached. It's a lengthy document. I think we'd have to buy out an entire edition or two in order to make it happen, and I'm not sure that that's entirely necessary. It is necessary to ensure that the site alteration bylaw is available and needs to be widely read, but I'm not sure that it's that necessary to publish it.
The members of the media have indicated they'd be pleased if we bought out an issue of the newspaper.
And if they volunteer doing it, maybe we should accept that.
Mr. Larmer, can you respond to that?
That's fine, you can provide a notice in the paper and copies available at the town and on the website.
Thank you. Does that require, I don't think that requires a,
If it doesn't, that's great.
an amendment. I think that's understood that that was the case, that it was never going to be the entire, I don't think it was going to be the entire bylaw, so notice of the bylaw. We'll take that as understood, perhaps. Thank you, Councillor. Anything further?
No, other than repeating that look forward to having this out in the public attention and getting comments returned so that we can move this item forward as quickly as we can.
Okay, thank you. Others? Councillor Clark?
Again, further to Councillor Ribbiak's comments, it's good to see that this is at a point where it will be sent out for comments. Just to make that clear, that's what we're doing here tonight. We're sending this out for comments. Do we have a schedule, though? It says here for comments on same. Do we have a time frame that we will be taking comments? Is there going to be another open meeting, or are these just written comments? And when would we expect that to come back to us? Do we have a time frame like that, Mr. Larmer?
Mr. Larmer?
Excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor. The, assuming the council approves this recommendation tonight, the ad could be placed in the paper either next week or the week after. We could provide until mid to late September for comments, and then the report would come back in November.
Okay, thank you. Counselor?
We'd probably allow until October to submit comments.
Okay. Thank you. And I don't think there's, in regards to an intention for a public meeting, that's not the intention at this point unless it's directed by council. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
That was my next question, was, is there going to be another public meeting, or are we, at this point in time, just looking to see what amount of comments we get back?
Mr. It's not at this
Ask.
point. I think we're looking for feedback. Mr. CAO, perhaps you can
That's
respond.
correct, Mr. Mayor. There is no requirement for public hearing at this time. Information will be gathered and presented back to council for their information and help determining the next steps on the approval process.
Okay, thank you. Counselor?
And it'll be coming back to committee?
Yes, it will. As part of the recommendation, it'll be coming back to general committee, yeah,
Okay.
not to council.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Anything further, Counselor?
That's good.
Other members of council? Counselor Pat?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Director of Planning, so the object is to get this here to us by November 4th, which is our first meeting in November. Is that the intent?
I'm not sure of the exact date, but yes,
Well, yeah, I like-
first meeting in November, yes.
Because it would still need approval by General Committee and also approval by Council.
That's correct.
So our intent, your intent is what I gather is to get this finished and in place before the end of the year? Is that
Well, I will bring forward a recommendation report from council. Whether council wants to pursue the
that's
bylaw
right.
or not is your decision.
Right, it is our decision, and again, I'm very pleased to see that we're asking again the public to bring out as much information about this and review this carefully, so that when we do make the decision, that it's done for all the right reasons.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. So again, just for clarity, similar to the public meeting that some were at here earlier, council is not approving, if this
That's
gets
right.
approved, council is
It's
not approving a
approving.
bylaw.
That's correct.
It's a draft bylaw that we're opening up to the public for comment. And that comment will be received until the end of September. And a report will come back to committee, to the general committee, so that we can debate it a little bit more fully in the first meeting of November. Council's not made up its mind. Council could say, no, let's not do this, or let's change it, or whatever. So it is still an open slate. Any other further comments or questions? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. That motion is carried. We look forward to that feedback. The next item has been moved by, are we doing the report, or are we doing the actual, okay, sorry. Thank you, sorry about that, Council. It has been moved by Councillor Durley, second by Councillor Ribbiak, the report P3912 Rooftop Solar Applications Provincial Feed-in Tariff FIT Program be received and the recommendation contained therein be approved. That for reasons outlined in Planning and Development Report P3912, Council pass a motion providing support in principle to rooftop solar applications under the Provincial Feed-in Tariff Program as follows. Whereas the Province of Ontario's Feed-in Tariff Program encourages the construction and operation of rooftop solar projects, and whereas it is likely that one or more rooftop solar projects will be considered for construction and operation in the town of Pelham, and whereas pursuant to the rules governing the Feed-in Tariff Program, the FIT program, applicants whose rooftop solar projects receive the support of municipalities will be awarded priority points, which may result in those applications being offered a FIT contract by the province prior to other persons applying for FIT contracts. And whereas the Green Energy Act 2009, as amended, stipulates that a municipal official plan and zoning bylaw does not apply to a renewable energy undertaking, and whereas the Building Code Act, as amended, applies to renewable energy projects, and as such, each rooftop solar project will require a building permit issued by the town of Pelham, and whereas pursuant to the Ontario Heritage Act, as amended, each rooftop solar project that is proposed to be located on a property listed on the Town of Pelham Heritage Register or designated as a heritage property will require a heritage permit from the town of Pelham prior to work commencing on such properties. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the council of the town of Pelham supports in principle the construction and operation of rooftop solar projects in the town, including but not limited to rooftop solar projects on town-owned buildings, provided each rooftop solar project shall comply with all applicable laws and regulations, including but not limited to applicable town of Pelham policies and procedures, and further that this resolution's sole purpose is to enable the participants in the FIT program to receive priority points under the FIT program, and that this resolution may not be used for the purpose of any other form of municipal application in relation to the FIT application or a rooftop solar project or any other FIT program or for any other purpose, and further that council support in principle shall lapse 12 months after its adoption by council. Discussion regarding the motion before us. Councilor Clark and then Councilor Powell.
Mr. Mayor, could you read that part again about the building permits required, please? I just want to make sure I understand.
I believe it's in the report, and essentially, Councillor, it indicates, here it is here. Whereas the Building Code Act as amended applies to renewable energy projects, and as such, each rooftop solar project will require a building permit issued by the town of Pelham.
Okay. Question for Mr. Larmer, if I could. So, to avoid the situation that we went through in Cherry Ridge, these applications and the permits that are applied for will conform with the normal subdivision registered covenants, thank you, that's the word I was looking for, as well as all side yard setbacks, height restrictions. They will conform to all of that, or is this an open book?
Yeah, I think that's regarding ground mounted, but we'll get the answer from Mr. Lorimer.
Yeah, as it's explained in the report, there's two different types of applications. That was a microfit proposal that was in the Cherry Ridge subdivision. This is a fit application. So microfit is small, less than 10 kilowatts. The form that the Ontario Power Authority uses now requires that no adjacent properties be used for residential purposes unless it's accessory to a farm operation. So it's essentially removed the possibility of a situation that we experienced in Cherry Ridge from being established again. So that's microfit. This application is for fit applications. They are for projects that are over 10 kilowatts. They're much larger applications. They typically go in an application that we've seen recently would go on top of a barn or a flat roof structure. So the zoning bylaw still doesn't apply. The town can't apply zoning bylaw or official plan policy that prohibits this type of use. It is permitted regardless of what the municipality says in terms of establishing setbacks from property lines or adjacent dwellings. So this is essentially saying a building permit is required. They still have to go through the Ontario Power Authority's evaluation process. If they get awarded, then they will come back to the town and they'll have to go through all of the processes that the town has in place for the issuance of building permits.
Okay, just so I understand, like, again, height as an example. This
height does not apply.
Does not apply, but it applies to everything
Top
else.
structures.
No, I realize that,
It's
but
not
if,
ground or ground.
no, I realize that, but if you put a roof up X amount of feet and it's 2 feet over the limit, you have to change your plans. But if you put up a solar unit and it's 2 feet over X, you don't have to change your plans. Is that what you're saying?
That's the legislation that has been put in place by the province, yes.
Right. So it's the same thing, it's just a slightly different color.
Well, I would say it's not the same thing, but, you know, that's,
I think, are these for existing, these are for existing roofs, so they would have had to comply with previous requirements, is that not correct?
I'm not sure what you mean.
These are for roofs that are already existing, right? Rooftop mounts?
Well, not necessarily.
But so the roof will have to comply, but the solar panel may not?
That's right.
Okay.
That's correct.
So I hope that provides clarity, Councillor.
It does, but it's not all that, I mean, it's the size, and yes, it's a rural application, but, and I like the idea of solar heat. What I don't like, or solar energy, is what I don't like is the fact that, you know, we can't see every possible scenario that can unfold. And if someone has a building that was put up recently or 100 years ago or whatever, and it fits the the bylaw, and then someone puts a solar panel that's 10 feet taller, and it impedes on their neighbor, it's the same problem that we have right now. So I don't understand why, I guess I don't know if I'm going anywhere with this at all, but it's just, I don't like the fact, it's the same thing as we had with the cell towers. Sure, we had to get a building permit, but they could still put them where they wanted, as high as they wanted, and anything. All we did was collect some money from them.
Mr. Larmer, regarding the height from the roof?
The province has taken out the ability for municipalities to say whether they're allowed or not. You can't say that. The town cannot say that. So all that Ms. Clark appeared in front of council for, and this report addresses, is whether or not the municipality wants to support these types of installations, and if they do, then we pass a resolution of this nature, and they get priority points. So that puts them in place in a better position to be considered for the award of this type of contract. It doesn't mean that if you don't pass the resolution, there's never going to be one in town. It's just that it just is a public declaration by the municipality that they agree that green energy is a good thing.
Another question, I'll try to speed this up, then this may not necessarily be a rural application, though. I mean, it could be put on top of a commercial building along right now, or one of the new buildings coming up, hopefully on Highway 20 one day. I mean,
It could be
again,
on
we
top
don't
of this
know,
building.
we don't know, it could be on top of this building, yeah. We don't know that. I guess, you're right, it could happen without us approving this or not. So, I just try, I guess what I'm doing is bringing this to everyone's attention, that, again, we have no control. This is, you know, marching orders from Toronto, and that's it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor, for identifying that and for the discussion. Councillor Pat?
Well, it's sort of, Councillor Clark, to pick up on that, I just wanted to make note that our adjoining municipality, in fact, has started to participate in the solar panel and actually looking at putting panels up on some of the municipal buildings. And we've been able to get some information. So your points are well taken as to how does it affect height restrictions, what is imposed on the layout of the building and that. So one of the things I wanted to ask when I heard this is if we could ask staff to research and investigate with other municipalities about ourselves getting involved in it, because there's potential, both, as I understand, it generates revenue and also will help with us in our energy efficiency abilities. So along those lines, if it's I guess, compliant, I'd like to ask our staff to investigate this, and I know that Mr. Ottaway, our CEO, has already talked to one of the local municipalities, and you and I, Mr. Mayor, were also brought up to speed on this, and I found that interesting that they are proceeding, and they could be adapted. You're quite right, Councillor Clark, to the arena. We've got, in fact, possibly up to 12 buildings, including even our new fire station that could have this type of facility built on it. So if I could ask for staff direction on that, to pursue that and get back to us on how we could participate.
Sure. Mr. Ottaway, do you want to respond to that just preliminary first, and then we'll...
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The one of our neighboring municipalities, in fact, has proceeded with a project like this. I have had the opportunity to look at their business plan and potential revenue. It looks like it does have some merit financially, but also environmentally. And as the councillor indicated, there are 12 flat roof buildings in the municipality that is owned by the town that could be eligible, although further engineering and other requirements would have to be explored. So staff can certainly take that project on, and we'd be more than pleased to come back to council with the report on the feasibility of that type of an operation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor, I've just discussed this with the clerk, and perhaps maybe an amendment. I don't know if it's to this motion or immediately following this motion.
It's immediately following, so that motion.
We want to send this to the provincial government because
Right.
it's a
But then you'll do
resolution,
this
but
as
immediately following that,
That's
perhaps
fine.
we can entertain a motion of direction to ask staff to do that, and I'll look for a seconder at that time. Any other comments, Councillor Rivak, regarding
Mr.
this
Mayor.
motion?
Regarding this motion?
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. Before I make any comments, just a matter of full disclosure, I participate in the microfit program, so I have some personal experience with the rooftop panels and the entire structural and engineering aspect of that. The fact of the matter is that these cannot be put on roofs without a building permit. I needed to get a building permit and needed to comply with the requirements therein. So there is at least that degree of control that a town can exercise with regard to the placement of panels. My understanding of what was being requested was with regard to a specific project, and I suppose if we wanted to have a greater degree of control over what was at least given some degree of priority in the mind of the province, we could be looking at giving not a blanket approval, but rather a project-by-project approval as they come to the table. That would give us the opportunity to at least understand the location and the roofs in question and what kinds of issues that might arise from the particular location in question. I'm not sure that it's entirely necessary, because I think that the roof panels generally are pretty unobtrusive. I don't know whether that many of my neighbors, for example, realize that the panels even exist on the roof of the building that I have them on. Certainly there are other rooftop installations you would have to drive by a number of times before you recognize that they're even on the church at the top of Church Hill, for example, has an installation, a microfit installation, and you would never see it, and it's a highly residential area. But it's a very high roof, so I don't know that people necessarily have the chance to see it. The FIT program is larger than the microfit, obviously. Requires very large roofs on buildings that have already been approved in other ways. They're unobtrusive. I think that we should be prepared to give blanket support for it, but if there's any concern with regard to specific projects and what issues there are, we could be giving project by project approval, and we would be on top of it. The province has found this as a way of giving towns some degree of control over whether something would be approved, because of course there's some points that are given in terms of its priority. I think we should take advantage of that, Mr. Mayor, so I'm looking to support this.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. Others? Councillor Durley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going along with what was just said, I really don't like the blanket application, because as when the presentation was made to us at our last meeting, I had real concerns about the words "without reservation" in the blanket. That means that we would basically give everybody carte blanche to do whatever they wanted. I really like the motion as put forward by our staff that you know, everything, it should be done on a one-off basis so that we have control, and following along with what Councillor Ribiak has said, we have control, we know where they're going, and with the information gathered from the applications and staff giving them to us, we would have our fingers on the whole shot. So I really like that idea. To go blanket, I would certainly not be able to support that on a project by project basis. I would certainly like to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any others? No. I'm going to call the question then on the motion before us. All those in favor? Any opposed?
I was for it.
You were for?
I was
Thank
in
you.
favor, yeah.
That motion is carried. And as we outlined in the discussion, there was another motion of direction. Councillor Papp, you're writing it out here, I see?
I'm writing out as fast as I can talk. All right, what I would propose, if I can get a seconder, that staff be directed to investigate and report back on the feasibility and compatibility of the town of Pelham participating in the rooftop solar application program under the provincial feed-in tariff program.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Durley? Comments or questions? I think it's important. I know that I've discussed it with staff, and it's a possibility, and it's other municipalities are doing this as well. And as was identified, Councillor Ribiak identified a few of the projects through the town. So a few years ago, perhaps this was something new. Now it's something that many are getting involved in. We also heard, I think, at our last meeting when Ms. Clark spoke, that the window for this opportunity might be narrowing. I'll say not closing, but certainly narrowing. So I think time is of the essence of this. So we do have it moved and seconded. I'm going to call the question on the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Look forward to that coming back to us in a timely way. The next item for action has been moved by Councillor Durley, second by Councillor Ribbiak, that report CAO 912 infrastructure grant priorities be received and the recommendation contained therein be approved as follows. The council authorize administration to apply for provincial, it's actually federal infrastructure funding with the following projects in priority order. 1, new arena roof and staff room addition. 2, old Pelham Town Hall renovations, including cenotaph and landscaping. And 3, renovations to the pool house. Discussion regarding the proposal. Certainly appreciate staff putting this together and the federal government making this money available. We look forward to hearing back from the federal government, and we'll also work on a bit of an information session. I was going to say lobby session, but an information session with our member of parliament regarding these priorities. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. That motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you. The next item is the beautification terms of reference. It has been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor Durley, that report CAO 1012 beautification terms of reference and appointment be received and the recommendation contained therein be approved as follows. The council amends the Pelham Downtown Beautification Committee membership section of the terms of reference and accepts the recommendation to appoint Gary and Rosemary Chambers to the committee, and recommended changes being as follows. Members: 2 members from the Pelham Business Association, 1 member from the Communities in Bloom Committee, 1 member from the Pelham Heritage Committee, a resident of Fenwick, 1 member from the Pelham Active Transportation Committee, 4 residents at large from the town of Pelham, 2 of which reside in Fenwick, 1 town of Pelham councillor plus alternative ex officio, the director of planning with additional staff as warranted, who are serving as resource only. Discussion regarding the proposal before us. Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question as to, actually 2 questions. I'm looking at Gary and Rosemary will be the 2 Fenwick residents that are there. The other question that I did have was 1 member from the Pelham Heritage Committee, resident of Fenwick. Is there a reason why that person needs to be from Fenwick? Could it not be somebody from the committee, because we have people from Fenwick, Vaughan Hill, Ridgeville, and all over that are there?
Mr. Larmer? I'm sorry, Mr. CAO, this is your report. Sorry, Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reason that was included in there was at the recommendation of a councillor who is active in this area. And as I understand, the issue is to try and provide some active participation from people outside of Fonthill, who reside in Fonthill. Because a lot of the work is taking in beautification and revitalization questions from outside of the Fonthill area, such as in Fenwick. So important that there is input from those residents into their downtown or their projects. And that was the reason behind it.
Thank you. Councillor?
Maybe hinting a bit at discrimination, but that question aside, or that argument for another day, as I mentioned, there is a downtown beautification committee that deals with Fenwick, so that being an ad hoc committee, I believe that is there or was going to be formed, if it hasn't already. So in fact, there will be a lot of input from the residents of the town of the Fenwick by itself. But to zero in on the Heritage Committee is made up of 7 or 8 members, and not all of them are from Fenwick and not all of them are from Fawn Hill. So I'm thinking that the Heritage Committee should, I think, in fact, be the people that designate a member to go there. If it happens to be a person from Fenwick, then that's fine. But I don't think that we are right in saying that a person needs to be from Fenwick or from Fawn Hill or from anywhere to be on that. When there's 4, 2 from each side of town, that's great. When there's 1, I don't think we are right to say it has to be from this particular area of town. My point.
Okay, thank you. Others? Councillor Ribbiak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a resident of Fenwick, I'm really pleased with this report, and I'm glad that this is coming forward. We've had comments from the west of our town that people were not necessarily aware of, completely represented, and I think this will go a long way in resolving that. Having said that, I would like to lend some support to Councillor Durley's comment with respect to the member from the Pelham Heritage Committee necessarily having to be from Fenwick. I'm not sure that that would be seen even by residents of Fenwick as being fair or required. And if a change in this report or this recommendation was to happen, I would certainly support that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pat, are you going to make the amendment, please?
Yes. So that we, under the membership, that the word, the reference one member from the Pelham Heritage Committee, period, and strike the resident of Fenwick.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Ribbiak indicated that he would second that. So I'm going to, any discussion on that amendment? I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion, that amendment is carried. And now to the main motion as amended. Any other discussion? I think it's important, I'm going to just comment on this. I know that the Beautification Committee has been, members have been waiting for some of these changes, and these two individuals that are being charged with this duty and others that have been designated, I know one in the audience this evening representing the Pelham Business Association, are anxious to proceed. So I'm very pleased that this has come to council and that it will proceed quickly, and we can move on with this and continue to beautify our town. So I'm going to call the question on the amended motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. That motion is carried as amended. Thank you. The next report is a report from Regional Councillor Brian Beatty. Good evening, Councillor Beatty. Thank you for joining us.
Mayor, members of council and staff, and welcome to our new chief. I'm sorry to be addressing the first delegation you see here tonight, which is about fire learning. Welcome to Pelham. We have before us a report, but before I do that, Councillor Pat was inquiring at the last meeting about the possible timeline for our official plan, and when I asked the question, I was quite elated. The answer is this fall. Mr. Mayor, summer's got in between, and I don't know, did he say October?
We said September, October, so yes.
Thank you.
The report for the committees that took place on July 17th and 18th, and the regional council meeting that was held on July 26th. For the Corporate Services Committee, my HR is my human resources area of the Department of Region, and we initiated some capital projects in the amount of $200,000 for that department. There was a report given from the Ministry of Community Safety and Correctional Services that was regarding Safer Communities, the 1,000 Officers Partnership. And finally, a presentation and a presentation and also a report on the state of the infrastructure of facilities in the region. For Integrated Community Planning Committee, received a presentation, and then we deferred having a vote on the report till next time around on Sustainable Niagara. We received a presentation and directed staff to prepare a support letter for a very significant potential event for Niagara. It's called Niagara World Garden Event 2017. It will be a world-class activity, and will bring a lot of revenue, a lot of tourism into Niagara. Received and endorsed a report of the Niagara Gateway Economic Zone and Center Community Improvement Plan. This is the final stage before actual implementation of that exciting potential economic turnaround for Niagara, from the Thorold down through Port Colborne corridor in particular, and also the zone from Niagara Falls along the Queen Elizabeth to Fort Erie. Received a report and authorized staff to enter into a memorandum of understanding with regard to Innovate Niagara, and received a report and agreed to changes to request for funding residential grant program applications. That's for properties in Queen Street and Niagara Falls. As you're aware, there's quite a redevelopment activity going down in that particular part of Niagara Falls in their old original downtown area. Received a report on Smarter Niagara Incentive Programs for a local and regional partnership for West Lincoln, and that was regarded to enhanced employment land analysis and a commitment of up to $35,000 to be matched by the local municipality. Received a report on Bill 100, which is Ontario's proposed Great Lakes Protection Act and Great Lakes Strategy, endorsing the comments on the report, directing that communication to go to the Ministry of Environment, local municipalities, as well as the Conservation Authority. For public health and social services, the government is legislating new reporting requirements for emergency services, ambulance response time. Received a presentation and approved a report with regard to that. And the federal government has made a number of changes in terms of the last big bill they put through with their budget, in terms of federal health programs, their impact, in terms of people's health. So there was one report dealing with the recommended communication with key ministries and MPs about the changes affecting health, and then a second report that dealt with the changes as they affect social assistance and recommended communication with AMO, because it's a provincial matter for AMO to pursue. It basically, the federal action, in my view, is just one more phase of downloading, where things that used to be funded out of the federal government are now being downloaded, or the funding is not being provided at all that used to be provided to immigrants to Canada. Public Works Committee received a presentation respecting the Niagara to GTA study, received a presentation and report on the Open for Business Action Plan for the Development Services Division. That would be a report, Mr. Mayor, that if we can get a copy of it for Council, I think it would be important to see the kind of changes that are being proposed and trying to streamlining the business development process and trying to shorten the timelines for development to take place. We approved parking prohibition for a section of Dominion Road in Fort Erie and a stopping prohibition on a section of Regional 24 where it meets Forks Road in Wainfleet. We did receive a report and approved an amending agreement for a combined sewer overflow tank facility. That's in the neighborhoods of Rolling Meadows subdivision and Thorold. That's just off Highway 20 in the area where the regional prison is, and so on. It's a very significant major development, and it's dependent upon the CSO capability. Awarded a contract for the Niagara Escarpment Crossing study. This is for the town of Grimsby, Lincoln, and the township of West Lincoln, in the amount of $210,757. This is because of the ongoing concern of trucks, the state of maintenance of the trucks going down, the escarpment going through major communities, Beamsville, obviously in terms of Vineland and Grimsby, and the kinds of accidents and accident potentials. So we're looking at a crossing that would be a truck crossing that would avoid the key areas of population. Received a report and approved advertisements on Niagara Region transit buses, and a report and approved a 3-month pilot study on curbside collection of waste electrical and electronic equipment. At Council itself, you probably read in the paper that Dr. Siegel from Brock University made a presentation concerning governance, and basically starting with the comment, what's the problem you're trying to solve, before we even start. And once again, to members of Council and staff, there is a very significant document about how far Council has come already. The Chair put it out in a repeat email this week, and if you're interested in governance issues, it talks about, we've so far looked at 4 broad areas of governance review, and there's quite a number of recommendations and comments that perhaps might help in terms of discussion. I don't know whether you've responded yet to the City of St. Catharines, but that might be a good starting point if we can get you a copy of that email. Approved a motion to proceed with the study of regional transit, and a motion proclaiming Niagara as the green energy capital of Canada, again fitting in pretty well with the item on your agenda a few minutes ago here at Council. Approved a motion to conduct a traffic study at 6161 Thorlestone Road in Niagara Falls, and Council is not having a meeting for the rest of August, so we're into the next Council meeting being at 6 period on September 13th. Open session with the closed session to follow. My report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor, for your comprehensive report.
I'll talk to you later about
Appreciate
the story behind the red glasses.
Oh, okay.
It's not the Elton John look I'd like to have.
Perhaps it's summer, right? I wonder if members of Council have any questions for Councillor Beatty this time regarding his report. It does feel like ancient history because it was a few weeks ago, but I appreciate you refreshing our memory of what occurred. I will circulate that report as you suggested regarding governance, and also the open for business. We'll make sure we get that to Council. It was a 41%, I think, savings in time and resources they suggested through this changes to development services at the region. It was very impressive. Councillor Pat?
And again, I commend both you and Councillor Beatty for pushing ahead with the official plan approval. And it just coincidental that open for business, that's what we want to be. We've spent a lot of time developing that official plan, the secondary plan. There's millions of dollars that are at stake here, and I can't thank you enough. Hopefully we can get this out there so that we can get moving and get this construction and the development underway along all those corridors. So thank you again, and I look forward to that document about the development.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you again, Councillor Beatty. Appreciate it. Our next item of business is new business. It's regarding illegal parking on Pelham Street, and I would ask that Councillor Durley perhaps take the chair for this portion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and when we trade seats, I know that you have something to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. Members of Council, I've received some feedback from residents and some business owners regarding concern of parking and enforcement in along Pelham Street. We heard some of that this evening, I think somewhat nuanced in Ms. Bedard's presentation, but having to go around vehicles that were parked on Pelham Street. I know I've seen it myself, several drivers parked in front of the cafe that's there, in front of the bank that's there, in front of the other restaurant that's there, and half on the curb, half on the, really the roadway. And it's really, as I understand from discussions with Mr. Mantle, Mr. Chair, and members of council, it's really supposed to be a turning lane is what that is, and that's why there's no parking allowed in that area. What this does is it forces pedestrians, occasionally children, seniors, et cetera, to go around them or into the traffic. It also forces drivers to jockey around these vehicles. So Mr. Chair, I just wondered if staff could look at this issue. I know the CAO and I, when we were out for a walk up there, noticed some of this as well. So, Mr. Chair, if supported by members of council, I'd like if perhaps we could direct staff to look into this and come back with a report of what can be done in that area. Some of it might be through enforcement, Mr. Chair. Some of it might be through built form. I don't know if something, I hate to add something else there, but it is becoming a challenge. I'm getting emails from business owners saying, here's another vehicle parked in front of another, business, et cetera. So, Mr. Chair, I'd look for a seconder on that direction and other
You're
comments.
asking for a staff direction?
To give us back some feedback on what can be done, either in the short term and also the longer term, to solve some of the challenges that I've seen there.
Okay, if you get it on the floor for discussion, could I get a seconder on that, Councillor Pat? Okay, now it's on the floor. So what we're asking for is staff to investigate the challenges that illegal parking are creating, looking for a solution for same. Is there a time frame that you would like this to come back?
I think the issue is also tied, Mr. Chair, thank you for that. I think it's also tied to the patio in the sense that I know when I've been there, people park right in front and then it forces people around. So I think the timing is of the essence. I don't know if the CAO, he and I have had a kind of an offline discussion. I don't know if he wants to comment any, Mr. Chair, on this issue or not.
This sort of piggybacks on the presentation that Ms. Bedard gave us. Then, Mr. CAO, would you like to make a comment?
Minister should be more than happy to take a look at this issue. I know that we've received feedback from the general public as well, my office along with some of our directors, and it's an issue that I agree needs to be looked at and reported back to council with some solutions.
Okay, thank you. Several people have approached me as well, and I'm sure every member of council has had some questions and comments on that. So it's a timely thing coming through. So we will leave that with the CAO to direct staff and to get back in. Is there a time frame, Mr. Mayor, as quickly as possible?
If we can get it back to the first meeting in September, if not, certainly the second meeting, Mr. Chair.
First meeting in September is fine, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Okay, I'll call a motion or call a question on the motion for staff direction. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can have a seat back, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Deputy Mayor, I appreciate it. Thank you. The next item of business is presentation consideration of bylaws. We have 3 bylaws this evening. The first is regarding the procedural bylaw. It has been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor Durley, that leave now be given to introduce the following bylaw for second reading and dispense with the reading of the bylaw, being a bylaw to govern the proceedings of the Town of Pelham Council, its committees, the conduct of its members, and the calling of meetings. Second reading. Is there any discussion regarding the second reading of this bylaw? Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking at the timing of this. It was given to us on Friday evening electronically, and a couple of members of council didn't have an opportunity to open it and to have a look at it. It was given to us in written form today. I would really prefer if we referred this to general committee at the next meeting, so it gives us all a chance to digest. I know we had a meeting that gave us a lot of fodder to create this document, but they're, in looking it over at a very cursory first glance today, I got this from the clerk this morning, there are some things that immediately catch my mind, and I think it deserves some attention and some discussion. So if we can refer this back to come back to general committee for second reading at our next meeting, that gives us an opportunity to have digested everything that was put forward, and I think will give us a better foundation from which to debate.
Thank you. Just let me check with the clerk. Is it in order to refer it to committee if it's here for second reading? Can we just simply refer it to the next council meeting?
You could do either.
We could do either? Okay. Just wanted to see if that was in order. So it is. Is there a seconder for that referral? Councillor Papp? Discussion regarding referral is not really.
No.
Yeah, it is debatable.
So it is debatable. Any other comments other than those that Councillor Durley have given regarding?
Just quickly, Mr. Mayor, I agree with Councillor Durley. There's a lot of, this is very well done. I think we need time to digest it. A couple of members of council aren't here this evening. Let's take that time and opportunity to evaluate, look at it, and see how it applies, because this is going to be our new working plan and operational plan, and it has both operational and legal implications on how we conduct business, so we need to spend the time to look at it.
Okay,
So I
thank
agree.
you. And that's then to the September 4th general committee meeting?
That gives, I'm sure, gives us enough time
Lots of
to certainly have a good look at it. Thank you.
So I'm going to click. Well, it's being, it could go to council, but it's being recommended it go to general committee.
Then it would go to council for 2 weeks.
Okay, can you explain what would happen then in the process, please, Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if it goes to general committee on September 4th, it would then go for third and final reading at the council meeting 2 weeks after that.
Okay.
For adoption, the second meeting in September. There would need to be public notice provided. We are required to give 10 days notice that a new procedural bylaw is going to be passed, so we would need to do that as soon as the second reading is complete.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that clarity. Councillor Ribiak?
Thank you. I understand well that we've just received this draft. I personally would appreciate some time to look at exactly what this one says versus the last one we looked at. But I'm also mindful of and of course we're missing a couple of members of council, and I don't think this is something that we ought to pass without everybody being here and everybody having an opportunity to articulate their views. But I'm mindful of the fact that we have had discussion regarding this procedural bylaw. We've been waiting for this draft to come back from legal, and I think that's why it's now in front of us. I'm wondering why we would need to take the additional time that it would take going through general committee and then council and then finally being approved. I'm not sure that it wouldn't serve the purpose equally if we were to refer this to council rather than general committee in our next meeting. And I would, if I get a seconder, I would like to propose that as an amendment to this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor. Just for clarity, what the clerk indicated was this could go then to general committee and then come back for final reading on the 17th. If you get a seconder for your, is that not the case? That's what you indicated?
I need to make sure that we can give 10 days notice.
You can't give second reading in committee, though.
No, that's right.
You
You're
can
right.
only do it at regular council. So you
Okay,
can't do
so
that.
we're hearing back and forth.
The CAO is correct. It should come back to
Mr.
council
CAO?
for second reading.
Yes,
That's
Mr. Mayor, that you cannot do second reading in committee level, so the recommendation from administration would be, as Councillor Rebecca mentioned, to come back to regular council and to proceed in that manner.
Okay, and I think that was the timing suggested by Councillor Durley.
Just for clarification, I have no problem if it goes back to council. Just, in fact, if there are some revisions at second reading, could revisions be made by council at that second reading?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
if that being the case, then fine to come to council. I'm happy with that, and I'll accept that as a friendly amendment if that is, or I will make the amendment that it goes to,
All right,
goes to council.
let's
instead
have
of
you
general
make the
committee.
amendment and then
Okay.
seconded by Councillor Ribiak.
That's very good.
All those to that amendment on the referral motion, all those in favor, any opposed, none. And now to the referral as amended. Any further discussion on that? None? Going to call the amended referral. All those in favor, any opposed, none. That motion is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. The next item of business, still in bylaws. It has been moved by, thank you. It's been moved by Councilor Ribbiak, second by Councilor Durley, that leave now be given to introduce the following bylaws and dispense with the reading of the bylaws, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 1136, 1987 as amended, Rittenhouse Estates, and being a bylaw to adopt amendments number 57 to the official plan of the town of Pelham. Discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. That motion is carried. It's moved by Councilor Ribbiak, seconded by Councilor Durley. The following bylaws have been considered the first time, be numbered as follows. Bylaw 3,284 and bylaw 3,285 be now considered a second, third time and passed, and the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of council to the contrary notwithstanding. All those in favor? None opposed. That motion is carried. It's been moved by Councilor Ribbiak, second by Councilor Durley, that leave now be given to introduce the following bylaw and dispense with the reading of the bylaw, being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the actions of council at its meeting held on the 13th day of August 2012. All those in favor? None opposed. That motion is carried. Moved by the same, that the following bylaw have been considered the first time, be numbered as follows. Bylaw 3,286 be now considered a second and third time and passed. The mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of council to the contrary notwithstanding. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. That motion is carried. Finally, it has been moved by Councilor Ribbiak, second by Councilor Durley, that this regular meeting of council be adjourned until the next regular meeting scheduled for Tuesday, September 4th, 2012, unless sooner called by the mayor. I'll just take note that it is a Tuesday, and that's because of the Labor Day holiday. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. That motion is carried. This meeting is adjourned. We'll take a 5-minute break between, before committee starts. Thank you. Did you want these back?
For that?
Well, that's right.
I needed to make sure you guys know. Yeah, no, we couldn't go back to committee, but you can't do second reading. Yeah. So that would delay you by another whole month.
Okay, we'll bring that up and then, you know what, if there's agenda,
Now. Yeah, sure.
Did they at all?
You start nodding off. There's no delegation.
Yeah.
Barbecue you.
You gotta show them that part. No, you gotta show them that part right away.
Here?
Because there's an interview.
No?
Yeah, you can probably turn.
Look at yours.
I do that
Everybody was such a
whispers.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Just say, hey, Craig. I'll talk in my mouth. Is this thing on?
It is now.
Hello, sir. Sir, have you met Carrie?
Every time we're together.
It's my memory.
Or it could be the big.
I said me.
You're getting old. Where do you do that? He looks really hip though. I like his old outfit. He's got this one in New York. He's got this He's been hanging out in Central Park. You did. Oh, nice try. You and me, buddy. My office tomorrow.
This never happened. How long is it?
Fight at the board.
Have we ever done this before?
I don't think we've ever been on the same side.
Oh, but in West Lincoln where Tom was. That's what it was.
I run into all these Dunville things with his name on it.
That's why.
Those are.
Now the general committee. That's right. Okay, so this is where that's the agenda. Yep, right here. On the top, and just, yeah. Awesome. Did you come at 7? Yeah. You do. Yeah, and it's hard to say.
Well, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but you did also manage.
And when I met with him, he was in a different.
And if we only had one, then we should also see around. Go park.
Wire?
That's what you got in your board.
Yeah.
Not that you don't have anything else.
I was in.
You would hear that to work.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
In a heartbeat.
I was in Yorkville, the first of his application, so I still have to see Ron Paul.
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, yeah.
So he's like right at Yorkville.
It's just gotten him.
He's wearing a golf shirt that looks like he has breakfast on it. His shorts that are shorter than sweat socks, blue Converse, running shoes.
And he looks like the type of guy that would do that. That was a good appearance.